And the letters you sent, which they were juicy. I mean, there were things you'd see in a XXX movie. Completely inappropriate, obviously. And I think you know that for a young man of that age. And as an educator, it was incumbent upon you to set a better example.
Welcome to the Dark Underbelly. So we are headed to Adair County, Kentucky, where we are going to watch the sentencing of juvenile detention officer Elena Bardin in the courtroom of Circuit Judge Samuel Spalding. Elena Bardin was arrested previously for sexually assaulting a minor. The minor's age was 17, an inmate, actually, in the facility where she worked as a detention officer. Elena had written a number of letters that detailed her desires and actions and conduct with this minor inmate of this facility, the Juvenile Detention Center in Adair County. She was sentenced in November for the crimes that she was convicted of by a jury. She took this to a jury. There was plenty of evidence, and yet, as we are all entitled to, if we are accused of a crime, take it to a jury, see if the male victim will crumble and be unable to testify. She dragged this thing out, as we have seen, and she was convicted. She was acquitted, actually, of having this juvenile and discussing with him on a number of calls her desire to have her husband killed so that she didn't have to deal with the pesky issues of a divorce. Why not better have your underage child who you've been sexually assaulting and you have power over as a detention officer? Elena thought, hey, if I'm getting away with this and I have, I'm in a position of authority, this is a child in my custody, why not have and manipulate him? I've already manipulated him to not say anything about the crimes I'm committing against him. And so he didn't report this. In fact, it was an inspection of his living quarters in this detention facility that uncovered the descriptive letters that detailed the sexual assaults that was occurring, described by the judge as juicy. Yes. Judge Samuel Spalding called the letters that he got to read in detail juicy. Kind of a bizarre way to look at it for underage sexual assault. Well, we're going to head to his courtroom that was for the sentencing for Elena Bardin, acquitted back in September of trying to have her underage boyfriend kill her husband, but convicted of sexually assaulting this minor. And we are going to check out the hearing.
Thank you. On the record in the Adair County case of Kentucky versus Elena Bardin, case number 25CR-55. Good morning, everyone. We're here for final sentencing on Ms. Bardin's matter. This reminds us you had an opportunity to review
or corrections to either.
Okay. Well, I think I've received, 4 letters on Ms. Bardin. Received a letter from her parents. Probably the best written letter I've ever received. I mean, they're obviously very intelligent, articulate people. Received one from her husband. I received one from someone down at the jail involved with jail ministries. And then I received a 4th letter that the identity of which escapes me.
Well, at least they weren't 49 letters like Lindsay
Anything
White.
You wish to say prior to
only got 4 this time from her husband.
No, Your Honor. I think everything was, laid out in the letters as well as in the motions that we filed. I don't need to argue those, Judge. I think they're sufficient rely on the pleadings. We understand the jury's verdict. We understand what occurred in the case. Obviously, the court sat through the trial. We still think there's certain issues with the case, obviously being adult, being a minor, those type things, but the jury verdict was what it was. And we're prepared for the court's ruling, and we'll proceed however we need to.
Mr. Wright, how about on your end? Anything you wish to say prior to the court imposing sentence?
Since the only thing I would say that there's no reason to rehash the facts of the case. I agree with Mr. Romines. The court heard that over the course of the trial. This is a case that a jury in the community in Adair County was able to hear. They certainly, I think, took the evidence and the instructions to heart and deliberated. And I would just ask the court to sentence Ms. Bardin in accordance with the jury's verdict that they rendered in the case. I think it was fairly tried. I think the court even commented it was a clean trial. And I think the
clean trial. What is a
the jury got
clean
it right,
trial?
and I would ask the
Clean
court
trial.
to sentence her in accordance with
Clean.
her verdict, John.
Totally
Okay,
clean,
Mr. Romines, anything else?
as opposed to a dirty trial.
No, Your Honor.
Anything you wish to say, Ms. Bardin?
No, Your Honor.
All right,
She doesn't
this
speak.
is a very unfortunate case, needless to say. Like I said, I was very impressed with the letters involving your parents. Let's start with the motion for a new trial and judgment of acquittal. I'm going to deny those motions. I think this was a clean trial. I really don't see any issues that came up at the trial that I think would be a concern from an appellate standpoint. I think the jury got the verdict right in this particular matter all the way around. And what we do, I've always said, and I believe that the juries get things right more than anybody else in our process. I absolutely believe that. And I think they got it right here. I really don't think you intended to try to solicit that young man to kill your husband. I don't think you did. I think the acquittal on that was the right decision by the jury. It's what I would have done if I had been sitting on the jury, if it had been tried in front of me. I think you were acquitted on various charges that you probably should have been acquitted on. And of course, I directed a verdict on 2 of the counts because there wasn't any evidence, I thought, to warrant a conviction. You sent 193 pages of letters, I think it was, to this young man. One of them got you convicted.
He's a young man now. I realize that he's a 17-year-old, and but by the law and by the technical definition of a minor, he's a minor. The judge is relying heavily on young man and not boy, which would imply an underage child. So really desiring to make sure that everybody knows this is a young man. So as close as an adult as we could get.
One letter.
One letter, even though 193 pages of letters she wrote to this inmate who was a juvenile, who she was in charge of. And she's doing all of this while she is married, and she is calculating a possible way to have this child, this boy. Not only is he going to have a distorted view as he continues to grow up, this woman manipulating him, having power over him, but she also sees an opportunity to manipulate him to kill her husband. She was acquitted of that. So, the judge says you got it right.
Basically admitted to the sexual contact with this young man, which of course triggered the other charge in this particular case. That's what got you convicted, and the jury was right to convict you of it. Regarding the sentence on this particular matter,
He don't like it.
there have been situations, I think probably 4 times when I've had trials and I have reduced the sentence.
He's already talking about reducing it.
That the jury recommended,
4
because I
times.
just thought it was very unreasonable what they had offered or what they had recommended the jury. I think I've done that 4 times in the many trials I've had. And I've considered that in your case.
Of course you have.
The thing about this, Ms. Bardin, it's not necessarily in my mind what I would have done if I'd been sitting on the jury. I don't think I would have done 14 had I been a juror.
So this is a specialty in Kentucky where the jurors get to recommend the prison sentence. And you will see that if left in the hands of jurors, they sentenced her to a very stiff punishment for abusing a 17, even though she was in a position of authority and she committed a number of crimes being in that position, even above and beyond it being a minor. It was a detainee and a corrections officer or a detention facility worker. But if jury convicted her and sentenced her to a lengthy term that this judge don't like, he don't like it. He thinks that she should have gotten less time, but he's real hesitant to reduce her sentence based upon this jury's recommendation.
Because you're going to pull right under 12 of that. These are 85% pro eligibility. The question that for me is that whether or not I think the recommendation was unreasonable to the point.
Can I find a way to reduce your sentence because you're a woman and this is a 17-year-old boy?
I have about the case and about your conduct in this case. First of all, you were an educator. Okay, you were an educator of these kids. I mean, these are troubled kids. That's why they're there. I mean, you're there to set a better example. And the letters you sent, which I mean, they were juicy. I mean, they were things you'd see in a XXX movie. Completely inappropriate.
The letters that I have read, every word of that you sent this boy in your care, were juicy. What you would see in a XXX movie. I'm trying to picture it of a judge saying a similar sort of coddling of the scenario with a man molesting a girl, calling his letters with her sort of in pornographic detail about how juicy these letters were. I just don't see it. Again, angles of descriptive language, young man versus underage child, juicy letters that got you convicted versus perverted behavior that you deserve, as the jury said, to go to prison for 14 years. Now, let me find a way to try to reduce this. My goodness, you let the jurors decide your prison sentence, but man, we got to have that female pred revision from the justice system. So we can't be sending women away to a long time for this kind of conduct.
Obviously, and I think you know,
like we send men away
for a young man of that age, and as an educator, it was incumbent upon you to set a better example. My biggest concern is the fact, though, Ms. Bardin, is that you were counseled to stop this. Okay, we heard testimony from your supervisor, basically the supervising educator at the facility when you taught there, Brad Stevens. He pulled you into his office and said, "Hey, we're getting complaints. You're around this kid too much. You need to distance yourself from him. This is not a good look. You're going to get yourself in a spot here." I think that
and she couldn't help
another
herself.
Witness, Jessica Black, testified that they actually moved this young man to another part of the building, another pod, so to speak, to try to get him away from you. And ma'am, not only did you not heed that advice and stop, it looks like to me you actually even doubled down on the behavior after that. And that's concerning. That's concerning. I know a lot of people in your letter talk about your mental health issues, that you've had
mental
issues
health
with being bipolar, and
back to mental
I don't
health.
doubt anything.
If in doubt,
I will say
my
though,
husband was abusing me. That's why I molested the boy, or I have mental health problems.
Else. I mean, it depicts a very intelligent and articulate young woman who was clearly articulating her thoughts and desires to this kid. I don't doubt you have some issues, but it's just those issues aren't enough for me to not follow the jury recommendation.
Even though I really want to reduce your prison sentence.
I just don't find, even though it might not have been what I would have done if I were sitting on the jury, it probably would not have been. I don't find it an unreasonable recommendation, and so I'm going to follow it. So on the charge of sexual abuse, first degree, I'm going to impose a sentence of 4 years. On the charge of unlawful transaction with a minor, illegal sex act, child under the age of 18, I'm going to impose a sentence of 10 years. Pursuant to the jury's recommendation, I'm going to run those sentences consecutive. For a total of 14 years.
Okay,
I'm also
so for those that don't know, the legal. This is delivering legal information, not legal advice. And I am not an attorney. A consecutive sentence. Most judges will sentence someone concurrently, which is you are serving the same time for different criminal convictions. So if you do this crime, it served 5 years. You do that time, you serve 10 years, 2 different charges, 2 different crimes. We're going to send concurrently, which means you get to serve them at the same time. And so you get credit for that first 5 years. Well, this jury didn't have any of the concurrent, a little confused too, that, hey, why are we sentencing people to these concurrent? What's going to stack the crime on after you serve this one, then you serve the next round. That's what this jury did. And the Judge Spalding don't like it. But he went with it.
An order requiring you to register as a sex offender as required by law for 20 years. I'm signing the interpersonal protective order that would prohibit you from having contact with this young man. I think that is for a period of 3 years, I think, but
Should be 10.
10 years, I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't really see that as being an issue, but you are under a court order to have no contact with him for that period of time. And obviously, I'm going to waive your fines and costs on this particular case based upon the sentence. Ma'am, I wish you the best. I truly do upon your release.
Wish you
it's
the
gonna
best.
It's going to be a while, but in the big scheme of things,
Don't want you to get
are
hurt in
released,
prison.
you're going to be a
They
relatively
won't
young
even know
woman.
that you're a sex offender.
You are?
Don't worry. It's a female
You'll
person.
have the rest of your life to live and spend time with your
There ain't
family
no
and
such
children.
thing as dirty
And,
papers in a female prison.
I wish you well upon your release. Good luck. That'll conclude it.
Judge, just housekeeping, I think it's very minor, but the judgment should also reflect, I think, the conviction for distribution of obscene matter. We
Yeah.
agreed on a sentence of 12 months.
We did. It's 12 months concurrent. Yes. Yes, on that. Okay,
And
good luck,
Judge,
man.
Do you have the duty to register this form? Do you want me to deliver that to probation and parole, or do you want to keep that?
No, you going back to Columbia?
Somebody will be from my office, yes.
Okay, so here's those orders, the IPO, the judgment. And that, I guess you would just give to probation and parole. We're going to burn a disc of this to take back as well.
Okay.
Thank
That
you.
included. Gentlemen, great. You both did an unbelievable job trying this case. It couldn't have been, I think I said this at the trial, it could not have been tried any better either way. You gentlemen are truly very, very good at what you both do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Well, we certainly got enough circle jerking going on there. But there it is. Elena Bardin was a Adair County detention official and sexually assaulted a 17-year-old who was a detainee. Didn't report it. There ain't no PREA. You hear PREA in the system. Prison, rape, and sexual assault to report him. Child didn't report this at all. And Miss Bardin left a trail of 200 juicy letters for other officials to find. Yet again, another case of a male victim being abused and it coming to light because someone else or something else found out. The woman somehow gave herself up, but not because of the self-reporting of the victim. Another angle that we've got here. You will see more and more of these cases. I know that folks are seeing more and more of these female offense cases. And we will walk you through how it's not because the victim is coming forward and positively identifying himself as a victim of sexual abuse and wanting to report it. No, and it's a parked car that police find. It's a mother finding out or a father finding out. Other people in a school finding out, or a parent, or the victims' family members, friend groups, administration. But rarely will we see what we see so many times on the for female victims, that they are empowered by society, thank goodness, to come forward and report these crimes and assume the role of victim, which they are according to the law, and that they are entitled to get justice for themselves and compensation in many ways. But not here in the female pred complex that we cover on this channel on the Dark Underbelly. No, rarely will we see a male victim with the courage to step forward and say, this happened to me. The law says that she is a criminal. The law says that I am a victim, and I'm not going to let that societal pressure foist upon me some positivity and silence and secrets that so regularly is propounded upon children of sexual abuse. So this is yet another case of a jury getting it right and sentencing this predator to 14 years in prison. And she got an acquittal, though, of the attempted murder or murder for hire of her husband, who wrote her a letter in support. Yes, she sexually abused and cheated on him with an underage boy in the facility that she worked at, and attempted to get that boy to possibly have him murdered. And he, the husband, wrote a letter of support for her, Elena Bardin. Can't get more Dark Underbelly than that. Check us out on Locals. We've got. Check us out on Rumble and Odysee. We've got a Median page. All in the description below. Let us know what you think about this case. Pretty all around another classic of as we continue on looking at these cases. But in the end, a husband gets almost murdered by the boy underage lover, convinced to kill him, and he's writing a letter of support. Adair County, Kentucky. Until next time, it's the Dark Underbelly. Thanks for tuning in.